Hello there, this is Cece with Going Solo. You're listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network. And today I have with me Vikki Stark. And Vikki Stark is a family therapist, a director of Sedona Counseling in Quebec, Canada. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, it's so great having you. You know, it's so amazing to talk to individuals like yourself that are continuously giving back to families, trying to really make things work for them in whatever situation they have, whether it be divorce or, you know, even just marriage counseling,
Right.
but just trying to help them and keep them going. So how did you get into this line of work?
Well, I did my undergraduate degree in psychology. I was always interested in psychology. And then I worked in business. I'm from New York, and I worked in business for 11 years in the arts. I had some great jobs at the New York Film Festival and with different architects and really fun things. But I realized that I just really wanted to be able to work in the field of psychology. So in my 30s, I went back and got a master's degree. And then became a family therapist, an MFT, a marriage and family therapist. So I do individual therapy, I do couples therapy, which I love to do, and most of all, I love to do family therapy when you get to work with kids. But along the line, life sort of took a turn, my own life, and I experienced a sort of a sudden and unexpected divorce. After I'd been working for 20 years or so as a marriage counselor. And that sort of started me on this new career in the past 10 years of really focusing on helping women recover following what I call wife abandonment syndrome. When a marriage breaks down out of the blue without the wife really knowing that there was any problem or that the husband was thinking of leaving. So that's my field. And so since then, I do my full practice of family therapy and marriage counseling and individual therapy. But my real specialty and my expertise is in working with women following divorce.
I commend you for that because I see it all the time. Locally here in the Tampa Bay area, I have a divorce support group. Yes. And so often, and in both parties, I hate to say this, but also men, they really are blindsided. They're in long-term marriages. And I think what might happen, and I'd like to get your opinion on this, is you kind of get comfortable in the marriage. And so you don't realize, because you've been married so many years, you don't realize that things are happening. The signs are there because when I talk to them, you know, as we're really kind of breaking down the relationship and breaking down things and getting past some of the emotional part of it, there were signs to it. So how do you, when you're speaking with someone that's been in a long-term marriage, how do you progress with the healing of that?
Yeah.
I know that's pretty broad. I know that's very broad for you, and I do apologize for that.
That's fine, Cece. Yeah, I mean, I think that the issue, the thing that's specific and that's sort of the hallmark of wife abandonment syndrome is that very often there just really aren't signs. And I mean, I know that's what happened in my own marriage. I've been married for 21 years. I'm a marriage counselor. You know, if anyone is going to see signs, it would be me. And my husband continued to be loving and attentive and available and a sweetheart, and we're planning trips. And, you know, really, he never once mentioned that he was unhappy or thinking of leaving until the day. And here's the story that I've told, which is that he came home from work and I said, I bought fish. And he said, it's over. And I said, fine, you don't want fish? We'll have chicken. And he said, no, it's over and I'm leaving right now. And that's after 21 years of marriage and him never, ever having mentioned that he was unhappy. So this is, you know, the fact that there are not signs in the classic wife abandonment syndrome, that there are not signs and that the men are very, you know, they're working it out inside themselves. They're testing their options. There's 99%, there's another woman on the scene. And they get to sort of a tipping point for various reasons, which I've studied. And they decide that they would rather leave the marriage and they want to get out of there as fast as possible because the last thing they want to deal with is a crying, miserable, angry, sad, distraught woman. So another typical hallmark of wife abandonment syndrome is that they sort of leave running. They leave really, really quickly, usually, in most cases.
Oh, that's very sad. And so then how do you pick up? I mean, what do you have any steps that someone can go through when that happens to them?
Yes, I have in the book. Oh, so I wrote a book called Runaway Husbands. I have a website that's called runawayhusbands.com, and it's sort of become the go-to place for women all over the world. You'd be amazed. Women in every country. I've even, spoken by Skype with a woman in Mongolia whose husband had left. So in Runaway Husbands, I have the 7 steps for moving forward, which I'll read to you. And 7 steps are: recognize that the chaos won't last forever. Accept that the marriage is really over. This is really hard. It's a hard one. Integrate the fact that your husband has changed irrevocably. Women keep wanting to pull him back. They want him to come back. The old George. Where's my George? But you have to accept the fact that your husband has irrevocably changed. Understand why he needs to justify his actions, because that's another hallmark of wife abandonment syndrome, which is that he often provides reasons for the end of the marriage that don't make any sense, that are just weird. They're trivial, they're weird, and that's his justification. Give up trying to get the acknowledgement and the apology you deserve. Turn your focus from the past to the future, and celebrate your new life as a single person. Because, it depends where the woman is at the point at which she leaves. This is typically women in their 40s, 50s, 60s. If she has a career, if she has an identity, if she has other things going on, some interests, she does dragon boating or something, then it's not as hard to pick up the pieces. But if her life really revolved around him and the family, and she really doesn't have a job or a volunteer thing that she's involved in, then it makes it much harder. And what we found, because I interviewed for the book, I interviewed 400 women to whom this had happened. But since 10 years, since the book came out, I've heard from thousands and thousands of women. And what we find is that after the intense grieving, because usually it's a long-term grieving, 6 months to a year of really acute grieving and pain and shock and trauma. But after that, there opens a window, and it's an opportunity for this woman to redefine herself and to figure out what she wants to do with her life. And very often women will go back to school, or they'll try a new career, or they'll just be different. They'll just take their lives in their own hands and be able to turn the crisis of abandonment into a springboard for change.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I love the book, Runaway Husbands. I think it's great. And so often this information that you have can be used. Thank you for showing us the book. Definitely. a little bit higher would be great. But yeah, so show it again. And, yeah, just so there you go. So everyone can see it really well. It's a wonderful book, and definitely I would recommend it. But this information...
The fish is jumping out of the fish
pond. I love that. I love that.
Where does a fish go when he leaves a fish bowl? He dies. There's no water.
Yeah, that's great. Well, and the other thing is what you said, which probably means something to you, is that you said, do you want fish? And he said, I'm leaving. So, yeah, so it's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah. But I love what you have to say, because I do feel that not only can individuals women that are going through this, like you have, use this information, even if they're not in the total runaway, because so often our relationships, we are abandoned. They move forward. They create, another life for themselves. They have other interests for themselves. And I can relate to that personally. I felt the same way. I felt, even though I lived in the same home, that it was a stranger I was with.
Yes.
And it became very cold and very, very hurtful. And so there is a segment, I think, as we're going through the relationship loss, there is an abandonment feeling. And so your book, I think, can really touch and change a lot of lives. And I appreciate you writing it.
Yeah, no, I think, Cece, you're really, you're so right that it's not only the classic wife abandonment syndrome where it comes out of the blue, but even if you've been arguing and there's been problems, and even if you've been going to marriage counseling and you're trying to deal with it, and then the marriage breaks down, either because the husband chooses to leave, or because the two of you you just can't do this anymore. There's always the loss of the dream. And the dream is, I'm going to be married to this person my whole life. You know, the vow that I took on my wedding day it's going to stick, it's going to hold. And that dream that we'll be together, if you have kids, you know, when the kids walk down the aisle, we'll do it together, we'll enjoy grandchildren in the future together. And that whole lovely dream of that security, of having that secure attachment to this one person who's in your inner world, who's your go-to person. And he, you know, has obviously been in your intimate life for some period of time, even if it's a year or 2 years when the relationship breaks down. It doesn't have to be a marriage, but when a significant relationship breaks down, then this person who's been in your inner world, and particularly for the women in the Runaway Husbands community, a lot of them have been married 20, 30, 40 years. I can't believe that. And then suddenly you're alone. And this is such a fascinating, you know, your network going solo, you know, but that being alone for many women is pretty terrifying. They don't feel as though there's anybody who's going to look after them, who's going to take care of them, even if they have friends, even if they have siblings, or even if they have parents. You know, to have that one person in the world that you call when your car breaks down, you know, that you know who you're going to call, is a tremendous sense of security. And so for a lot of women, they have to learn how to find that centering and that sense of security inside themselves. And that's really, you know, that's really what we're trying to help women with through the Runaway Husbands Network. That's
wonderful. It truly is. It's just so heartbreaking to hear those long-term marriages, and it's just like it's like 1 minute it's there and next minute it's over.
I know.
It's so hard for them to be able to grasp and rebuild themselves, and they, in their mind's eye, they believe that their life is going to be going down this totally, like you said, totally different path, and then to have to stop and really just think about themselves and how they're going to rebuild their lives or restructure their lives. It can be very daunting. And so your book and what you do is really great. Now, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do and how we're going to start beginning to restructure our lives and try to rebuild our lives. We'll just touch on that a little bit so that those at home that are listening to this will be able to know that there is, another side to this. There is a bright light at the end of the tunnel. Absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Great.
Okay, thank you for sticking with us. This is Cece with WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. You're listening to Going Solo with Cece, and it is so great to have you with us. If you've missed the first part of the show, you can, of course, always catch it on our podcast on the station. But we have with us Vikki Stark, and Vikki is a family therapist and a director of Sedona Counseling in Quebec, Canada. Welcome back to the show, Vikki.
Thank you, Cece.
It is great having you. So the first part of the show, we talked a little bit about your book, which is fantastic. It's called Runaway Husbands, and you have a website, which is called runawayhusbands.com, right?
Yep.
And on that site and in that book, you have these terrific 7 steps that will help you from really kind of abandonment of a relationship.
Yes.
And so this part of the show, what we're going to talk about is beginning those steps, even though you're in tremendous pain, beginning those steps to be able to move forward, to restructure your lives.
Yes.
Can you give us any words of advice for that?
Yeah. I mean, I think the first thing is to recognize that the chaos doesn't last forever. When you're in it and when you've just experienced it, and think of it this way, it's an emotional trauma. When a marriage breaks down, and particularly with the suddenness of a runaway husband situation, but in any case, it can be an emotional trauma. There's a lot of grief, there's a lot of crying, there's a lot of mourning, there's a lot of obsessing. You're obsessing about it, you can't stop thinking about it. There's tremendous hurt, you can't sleep. In our community, Runaway Husbands, people tend to lose weight. I know for me, I lost 30 pounds when my husband left. That's a pretty typical thing. And it's because you're in a very profound depression. But the important thing in the very early stages, and I'm saying like the first 6 months, is to recognize you're not always going to feel this badly. And that's a hard thing when you're in the midst of it and you're so miserable and the hurt is inside your body. You know, emotional grief is physical grief. Emotional pain is physical pain. And that hurt is inside your body and you feel this pain. And I remember waking up every day and saying, am I always going to feel this badly? But I can guarantee you that time will go on and that pain will start to diminish and you'll start to feel like yourself eventually. For each person, it takes a different amount of time. There's no right period of time. Everyone's situation is different. But you need to know that the chaos won't last forever. And that, you know, exactly what you said, Cece, that even though the tunnel is long and the light is very tiny at the end of that tunnel, but that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that just put one foot in front of the other. Now, if we talk about specific things to do, then what we're looking at is definitely, you know, to try to get the emotional help that you need. Some people really hibernate and they don't want to talk to their friends. They don't want to talk to their family. But you really do need to reach out to your people and ask them for help and ask them to come over and just make a meal with you or whatever. You may not feel like going out to a restaurant. It's as if you'd been in a car accident and, you know, the bones don't heal overnight. So you need a period of rest and recovery and recuperation. But you do definitely need to reach out to people. And then I think the other thing that, you know, that really the healing, it's incremental. It starts very slowly from very small things. And this is what I suggest. I suggest walking, getting outside your house and moving, and just walk around the block the first time if you have to. If you're not a person who does exercise, then this is an opportunity to start with walking, to get into nature, go to the park, go to the sea, go to the lake, just get close to nature with your grief, with your pain, you know, and Mother Nature will heal. And even though you're miserable and you feel like, I don't want to be here, just by getting yourself out the door and into the fresh air and the sunshine wherever you are, or the rain or whatever it is, it's a very healing thing. Music, things that are calming and peaceful. And if you're interested at all to do something like yoga or meditation, because you have to take care of your body and you have to take care of yourself. And so that all of these very simple things, you know, trying to eat. I remember putting food in my mouth. It tasted like cardboard. And I had to force myself to swallow. I'd never had that experience before. But to try to put healthy food in your mouth and just really to concentrate on taking care of yourself. And to recognize that obsessing is normal. It's a normal part of what happened in my life. And so to cut yourself some slack and to not feel like, you know, there's something wrong with me, I'm going crazy. And then, you know, to not be alone. When people come to the Runaway Husbands website or when they find the book, so often what they write to me and they say two things. They say, I can't believe I'm not alone, that this has happened to other people. And I can't believe I'm not crazy. Because you feel like you're crazy in those early days. You know, you're not yourself. You're not normal. So that's, you know, that's in the very early days. You know, it's a different prescription for later on, after a year and after 2 years, and you're dealing with legalities and lawyers and finances and all of that messy, difficult thing. But you just put one foot in front of the other and just keep moving forward, and you will get through it.
Thank you. That is such great advice, and it's so true. I think really with all divorce.
Yeah.
You know, because you feel like that with everything, and I know the guys and the gals both feel the same way. The ones that I call it the left behind ones, the ones where, you know, the one party has already moved forward. This is what they wanted. They made the decision. They've moved forward. But the ones left behind are the ones that are suffering and trying to be able to pick up the pieces and trying to put their lives back together and begin anew, basically. So I love what you have to say. I think it's great that you mentioned this. One thing I would would like to reach out and mention is that I really feel that there's a tremendous amount of therapists like yourself, there's coaches out there, there's professionals who deal with this type of loss, and I would highly recommend, individuals that are really suffering to reach out and talk to them, because the taboo of having a therapist or a coach now is gone. Right. And so why not have a partner to get through some of these difficult moments, and someone as a sounding board to be able to, say some of these things so that you can get them off your chest and off your mind, and start to begin to reprogram your mind and your heart and your soul again. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think a good resource for that is the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapy, which I'm a member of, and they have a website called therapistlocator.net.
Mm-hmm.
Locator.net. And so there are well-trained professional marriage and family therapists in your community, and you can sign into that for free and get a list of names, and you can read through the bios. And I think the other thing is that idea of being together with other women. There are in some communities, in some churches, there's divorce care. I myself run retreats in both Montreal and in Sedona, Arizona. I have some connection to Sedona, Arizona. I have a retreat, a divorce recovery retreat coming up in October 22nd and 23rd in Montreal. And we have ongoing retreats. So if you can reach out to a group or attend a retreat, it's a tremendous opportunity to really give you support and really boost up your healing. The other thing I wanted to mention is that on the heels of Runaway Husbands, which we've just published a companion volume, which I'm going to show you, which is called
Planet Heartbreak.
I can get that. Yeah.
Planet Heartbreak. Planet Heartbreak. Okay.
Yeah. And Planet Heartbreak is 62 stories written by women whose husbands have left. So it really breaks that sense of isolation. The stories are amazing. Some of them, the husband just left. I think the earliest is 2 months. And I think the longest he left like 11 years ago or 16 years ago or something like that. And so, you can really benefit from the wisdom and experience of these women. And a lot of it, it's not just, people talking about their pain and their suffering, but a lot of it is their realizations and their way of dealing with life and the changes they made in their lives. And it's inspirational, and it can really, give people hope. So, it's always good to read stories, right? It always makes you feel better when somebody is sort of saying your story and you're seeing it written down.
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. I so believe in the association of others, the connection of others, because I think it's so important to heal and grow. And I don't know, it just tends to, when you associate with other people, you become friends with them. Everybody helps each other, and it's really a great thing to do. So tell us, Vikki, how do we get a hold of you if we want to contact you as possibly our therapist? I believe you could probably do Skype or something, so they don't have to live near you. So tell us how we would be able to reach you.
Okay, well, the first place is go to runawayhusbands.com. My email is Vickki, Vikki, Vickki, at runawayhusbands.com. So that's the easiest way to reach me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So anyone out there that if you're feeling like you just need some help through this, or you're at the beginning stages or at the end stages or whatever stage you're at, definitely Vickki can help you with that. So you just want to contact her on her website, which is runawayhusbands.com, and she'll be able to help you with that. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. It's a wealth of information. I love what you do. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I really just want to do a shout out. If there's anyone who is listening, who is suffering, just keep going. You're going to get through it. You're not always going to feel this badly.
Oh, thank you for that. I know those words of wisdom definitely will help with those out there that are struggling. So, well, this is Cece with Going Solo, and there is life after divorce, that's for sure. You are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Network. I hope you will join us right here again with some of these great shows that are going to help you through some of the really difficult situations in your life, but we want to show you that there is something good on the other side, that you can get through it, you can live your best life, and that's what it's all about. So Vikki Stark and Cece are signing off for now, and we'll be back with you again. Thank you. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.